Welcome back to the Lyman Healing Podcast.
Where laughter meets inner peace.
We're your host, Shaka.
And I'm Kiana.
And we want to thank you for tuning in to another episode of your favorite podcast, Lyman and Healing. We want to thank you all for subscribing. And if you haven't subscribed us yet, ensure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks for all your likes, comments, and persons who sent us questions. We really appreciate it. So today, Kiana, what are we talking about? Hold up, wait. We have these flags behind us. I know a lot of you guys want to know what are flags or why these flags are up today.
Yes.
Well, it's the month of June and it's a Caribbean American Heritage Month. So we're celebrating all the countries, all the people that migrated from all of these countries from the Caribbean.
Because we do not have all of the flags. I'm sure we missed somebody. And
yeah, exactly.
On purpose.
Yeah, we try. If your flag isn't here, let us know. Let us know. We try to get as much flags as possible. Yes. Caribbean is a big, beautiful place, and we try to get as much flags. So June we celebrate Caribbean American Heritage Month. So basically, all the Caribbean persons who live in America, this is where we celebrate our culture.
Yes.
So happy Caribbean American Heritage Month. We want to celebrate this for the entire month of June, right? So because it's Caribbean Heritage Month, what are we talking about this week?
So this week we're talking about things we wish we knew before moving to America.
Great.
And this is such a good topic because so many of us, migrated from the Caribbean for different reasons. And, if we, with the knowledge that we currently have, if we could have told ourselves prior to moving, these are some of the things that we would share with the oldest or with anyone that is now moving to America. So today, this topic or this week, we will be talking about things we wish we knew before moving to America.
Okay.
And you can also probably apply that to Canada, the UK as well, and other countries.
I mean, things might be a little bit different, but
for the most part, it
generally
might be
the same. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the reason why we chose this topic because our experience, moving from the Caribbean to America has been different. It's taught us so much about cultural differences that you may have living in America. Because for me, I moved to Florida, and the area in Florida I moved to did not have a lot of Caribbean people. To be honest, it had a lot of black people. So much as Caribbean people, and it was very different, and I had to learn to assimilate and, basically learn how to fit in. And that has taught me a great lot. And, that's important to share those stories because it can help someone else. So let's dive into it. So first of all, we're going to get into the practical advice because, providing valuable tips is important because, for something as simple as someone is moving from the Caribbean, which is a warm climate, and they're moving to America, let's say during the fall months. Let me tell you, when people say America is cold, you do not understand that living in the Caribbean because you've never experienced that level of cold.
Yeah, sure.
So when someone tells you it's cold, bundle up. Okay, you need to be practical. You need to tell them, this is not Caribbean bundle up. This is not put on a long sleeve thin shirt with a linen pants and a sneakers. No, you need to tell them, honey, you need to go and get you some hoodie. You need to get 2 sweaters. You need to, if possible, get a coat.
Yeah, and it depends on where to.
Where you going? Yeah, if you're going to New York and you need to be prepared.
Exactly.
So offering practical tips is super helpful with the transition because it helps people to make better sense. Because if you're going to be it's cold, I've never been anywhere that's cold.
True.
So if this is my first time, I don't know how to take that. I might be okay, I just need to put on my thickest clothes I have in my closet. Mm-hmm. And for the Caribbean, that might be nothing, that thickness might be nothing compared to what you need.
You will have nothing inside your closet.
Exactly. You wear short pants, you even get a long jeans to put on.
Right? You wear nothing inside your closet. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Shoes and all those things. Yeah. What else we want to talk about?
Because, community and support, once again, we're all about community. We're all about supporting each other and, helping each other along the way. So by sharing these stories, we can help build that community amongst each other.
Correct.
Right? Mm-hmm. And then there's cultural awareness because we're promoting understanding and respect for our various cultures and stuff like that. So that once again, for example, if you're you have to eat a certain type of diet. Let's say you're Muslim, you have to eat halal or whatever. That's something you can share with people. Like, hey, I know you're moving, you know, don't worry. They get places where you can buy your kind of food you need to eat. Because those things can, you know, be fearful, like, because you
Correct.
don't know what you're coming to, what you're expecting.
That's true.
And it's important to have those information ahead of time. So it lessens the fear, lessens the worry of the unknown. And, you know, once again, that can also help with people's emotional well-being, because once again, you're leaving your home, you move into this unknown place. Like, yes, thank God we got technology now. You can talk on the phone, you can do your own research.
Can you imagine back then?
It's still scary, you know. A significant move like that, like leaving somewhere that you're used to, you grew up all your life, to somewhere new, comes with a certain level of fear, you know. And by sharing these stories, it helps to we find, like, you know, connection, and, you know, offer each other like emotional support, because once again, we're trying to build a community, right? And sharing these stories also, you know, provides inspiration and motivation.
Yeah.
Because it motivates you to share your story, how you overcome by moving to America or to Canada or the UK or wherever. It helps you. It helps to let others know that if I can do it, then so can you. Because it's possible for any of us to move, to grow, to be successful in a new space.
Yeah, exactly. So moving to a different place can be very scary. And that's exactly why we want to go through like different things, practical stuff, emotional stuff, because a lot of times people are afraid to leave their comfort zone. Right? And you don't know a lot of things. You know, a lot of times people be like, oh, well, America hard, or America this, or America duh. And they're not even telling you how to do it or whatever, right? I remember when I first wanted to move, or had it in thoughts or whatever, somebody told me, you think you could go live there? And I was like, why can't I? You're not even, like, you know, like, why? Like, you know, like, that was very discouraging. You know, I second guessed myself, but I was like, you know, I look at other people and I look, you know, if they can do it, I can do it. So I feel like doing this topic, especially this month, you know, to have these practical examples and stuff like that, we can help empower each other, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to build a good community where we can help each other to succeed.
Absolutely.
Right? So one of the first practical thing, like, obviously you want to talk about documentation and stuff like that, right? Because a lot of times filing paperwork, let's be honest, people don't know like basic filing paperwork and stuff like that.
It's complicated.
It's very complicated. Very complicated,
so
right?
Even like someone who had, let's say, more schooling than somebody else, it's still very difficult.
Yeah, it's very difficult.
You don't even know.
That's why people hire lawyers and stuff like that. But sometimes you don't even have money to do that.
So you gotta
right?
do it yourself.
Yeah. So doing your research. My advice is do your research for these things, or ask someone. I've had, you know, tons of people ask me. I've asked other people, like, okay, this is the case. How do we do A, B, C, D? You know, and what paperwork you should file with the document name, all these different things. You know, for me, I don't like when people are like, oh, you're just gonna get this thing. It's not. It's a process. Do your research for like your paperwork, employment, the stuff that you need for employment, having all your documentation, all your identification, all these things. Ensure you're doing research for these things.
Yeah, because something as simple as, you know, you come over here, you're not used to in the Caribbean, you might not get ID, like if you go to a bar or something like that, you're not used to that.
Oh my God, that's so.
Someone like, hey, we're going out tonight. Make sure you walk with your ID, because we're not going in if you don't have an ID.
Exactly. That was a huge thing for me.
Yeah.
Obviously, everywhere you got to work with your ID, because you don't have to do that things. In Guyana, you put up your thing in your safe spot, and when you need it, you bring it out.
Yes.
You know, so that's so true. Walking with your ID, having all your documentation that you need, and having it secured, that's very important as well. Because you don't want people to steal your identity and all these different things. So my advice, always do your research. Anything, even the smallest little thing. Even if you're applying for a job, right now there's a lot of scams going on out there. And this company wants to hire you, go online, find out about the company, ensure that this is true. Don't be giving out your information for various places and stuff like that.
Verify.
Exactly. Try to make sure you get verifiable employment, because that's a big scam, especially going on right now. Understanding the healthcare system, right?
Yes.
Those are something that you want to. This one you want to do, because a lot of time, you don't even know how to. Back home you just walk in and that is it.
No, it's very
absolutely
different.
Here you got to insurance most of the time, and if you don't have insurance, you got to get some form of insurance. You understand? Because here they don't want to hear nothing else. All they want, as soon as you walk in, where's your insurance card? They're even asking for your ID card. They're asking for your insurance
they want to
card.
make sure you can pay that bill.
Exactly, in America, health insurance is not free. It's not free. Yes, you might be able to walk in and get services and treated, especially if it's an emergency.
A bill coming to you.
Exactly.
Later.
A bill is coming to you later. And there's another thing people don't understand. The bills follow you, but we're going to talk about that. We're talking about finance. Things that follow you. So having insurance. So if you're looking for a job, get a job with insurance. At least if you can't get one with good insurance, because get good insurance, get bad insurance, get middle insurance, get insurance covering A, insurance covering I. They get 3 insurance. They get medical, which is for your body. They have vision, which is for your eyes.
Which means your eyes is not a part of your body. Because robbery.
But this is and you have dental. Right?
Also not a part of your body.
So those are the 3 insurance you just get that you're supposed to get. It's 3 different insurance, right? So we forget that workplaces give you dental and medical. Some don't even give you vision. You understand? And with the medical, some don't even offer you mental health. A lot of insurance don't offer you mental health. So when you get a job, see what kind of insurance they get, see what they're covering.
Yeah.
Do your research.
Even if you do have a job that don't provide, you can also buy like insurance like from the marketplace.
Yes.
As well. So there's options. There is workarounds.
There is
workarounds.
Just
have to do research.
Exactly. If you can't get your job, you can get it from other places, but having insurance is a huge deal. Another thing is laws. Like being aware of the law. Like definitely research. Pay attention to the law. Like basic things I didn't know. Like for example, I was out with my husband one night when I first moved, and we were at a restaurant. Had a good time. We left. So I was drinking a beer that you could, screw, like the Bud. I think it was Bud. Anyway, the one that you could open the screw top one. So I walked out with it, and so my husband was like, "What are you doing with the beer?" And I was like, "What do you mean? I wasn't finished with it." Yeah. And he was like, "You can't have an open beer outside." No. And I was like, "What? I didn't know that. I didn't know that." He was like, "No, you could be arrested for that." And I was like, "Oh, in Guyana, I drinking beer everywhere. Like I don't. It's not a big deal. You can't drink on the road."
Places and cities have like open beer laws where it's okay.
Very few. It's like one. It's like 2 only.
I don't know about New Orleans
and Las Vegas.
In Las Vegas, okay.
There's the only 2 places you can have open alcohol. Nowhere else you can have open alcohol in America.
Be watchful, be mindful of the laws, because you can be arrested for little things.
You can, like sometimes people be I mean, it's just gross and you shouldn't be doing it. But like peeing, people at the party drink their pee outside. You can't do that here. You cannot do that here. That's public. Let's call it public. Something indecency. You could be arrested. You could go to jail for that for years. So learning the laws, and I always tell people, learn the laws is important, because people think it's just some willy-nilly thing. The smallest thing in America is you could go to jail for. Smallest things.
Yeah, you gotta know the law.
Not paying your taxes. People think the smallest things you could go to jail for.
Yeah, absolutely. And things like transportation, there's differences in transportation, because like in some Caribbean countries, you have public transportation, but many people have their own personal cars and stuff like that. Even the rules of the road is very different. You better pay attention to speed limits. They're not a suggestion, because you can get ticketed, you can get your license suspended. There's so much things that can affect you. Yeah. So even those laws you need to pay attention to, because if you get caught, it can potentially put you in problems, even causing you to spend a lot of money to get out of it, and you don't want that, unnecessarily, unless you're in New York, I guess. Honking your horn, you're in the Caribbean, everybody's like, honk your horn.
Yeah.
Those things can cause, you may not go to jail for that, but you don't want to encounter people who have serious road rage, then they pull out no.
It's true. A
So you
lot of
gotta
people
be
are going.
careful. Don't agitate people. Don't get engaged with too much, back and forth with people on the roadways, because people are a little bit cool for Cocoa Pops. Like, be mindful of stuff like that.
Speaking of suspended license, I know someone that license got suspended because he didn't pay child support.
Yeah.
So even though you might be trying to avoid certain things, the things come back to haunt you. Like, no, you license suspended because you didn't pay child support. Like, I feel that was crazy, but that's how doing what you're supposed to do is so important here. So you think you want to make babies with a set of people and then they want to pay child support, they're coming for you.
They're coming for you. Even if you don't renew your registration, because I remember my car when I didn't have the car anymore, and I guess I did not surrender the plate to the DMV, and I saw my license suspended. I'm like, what? But then they're like, oh, I'm like, I don't have this car anymore. They're like, oh, okay, and then they reversed it, but you never know, so you got to be careful.
Yes, exactly.
So, like, even, like, getting the driver's license and understanding road rules, like, it's so important. One thing I do like, though, about America, if you're from Guyana, if you know, you know, it can be a little bit complicated to get certain things, but here, as long as you do what you need to do, you will get it. Like,
you know.
If you know, you know. For driving license, especially, that can be a little bit, difficult to get. But once you go through the channels here, it's pretty straightforward. But once again, you just have to understand and, follow the rules. So what about, like, daily life adjustments?
Okay, so daily life adjustment, that could include, like, cultural adjustments. Like, for me, like, daily norms and just interacting with people, because you don't understand the culture. Like, for me, I feel like a lot of things I didn't understand coming over here, just being me, being loud, So I think, to me, like, navigating social norms and daily interactions, like, was very interesting for me. Like, I would be, like, so upset with certain things. Like, sometimes I would go to work and
I think, let me make a distinction too, because I feel like, for me, I didn't have a lot of those kind of issues, and here's why. Because I moved here when I was a lot younger. I was like 17. So I feel like I was much more able to
adapt.
So I think when the older you are, when you come,
that's true.
Makes a significant difference in how you adjust.
Yeah.
So, like, for me, a lot of the adaptation was relatively easy in a way.
Okay.
Because I was still relatively young. So I was much more
easy to
moldable.
change. Yeah, exactly. I came in my mid-20s or almost late 20s, I would say. So yes, I guess a lot of things were
interesting. You were already, like, in your own, like, you were out doing your own thing.
Yeah, because I already finished school, worked, and so when I came, and I expect work should be the same, but like, it wasn't. Like, one of the biggest thing that bothered me, I never forget, every time I go to work and I took lunch, I would always cook. People would always ask me what I cook. I hated that, because in Guyana, like, you don't ask people what they bring, because you don't know if sometimes they don't have food that day, or they have no good food, so they don't want to tell you, and that would annoy me. And they would, like, come and look in your,
that used to happen to me
look
too.
in your bowl, like, and I'm like, please, like, don't do that, and my food is different.
Then so like, what is that?
How do you make that? I'm like, I'm on my lunch. I don't want to talk to you. I want to eat my food and go back and be on my phone, talk to people I gotta talk to, and that is it. So that used to bother me. And I remember coming home. My husband is, he's American. And I was telling him, I was like, oh my God, people ask me and he was like, that's very normal. And I was like, what? That's like such a huge deal. Like, don't be minding people's food business. Yeah. Where I'm from, you don't mind people's food business. And I hated it up to now. I still hate it. They would come and they would look, pointing my food is so annoying. How do you make that? What is that? How does it smell like that?
Yeah.
I hate that so much. Oh my God. So that's a big, like, cultural job. Like, just observe, and sometimes, once again, do your research. If something seems weird to you or whatever, just ask questions. Like I mentioned, I would ask, like, what do you guys think about this? What do you think about that? And then sometimes they would tell you, oh, that's how it is, or whatever. So definitely observe, don't get, like, upset or frustrated, but just observe, like, different kind of norms or whatever. As we were talking before, like, weather and climate, preparing for the different seasons. Because, over here they have, like, 4 different seasons. They have the summer, winter, fall, and spring, right? And then back home, they only had rain and sun.
hot and sun,
rain and sun.
Yeah.
It's not even hot and cold.
I was gonna say hot and wet.
Right?
Yeah.
So learning that, and it was a big change for me. Is like, I always thought when people say on TV, what's the weather like? I thought they were joking. I thought it was like when they don't have anything to talk about, they would talk about the weather. You're so engaged in what the weather like over here. Like this, like it's a huge deal.
It determines whether I can go for a walk after work. It determines whether or not if I'm going to go to the grocery store, because if it's too cold, I'm not going.
Yeah, exactly. Every day I used to have to look at the weather to see what I'm going to wear today.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's going to snow. Oh, it's this, that. Should I wear a scarf or two scarves? Like, because you got to really pay attention to the climate. You got to pay attention to what shoes you're going to wear.
Yes.
Right? Because if you know it's snowing and the shoes ain't got grip, you falling right down.
Yes.
You understand? You got to know, like, how you're walking, how you're running, how you breathe. Like, you got to know, like, so paying attention to the weather. Having the weather on you. And eventually you learn because you know, like, okay, well, 6 days I could handle this, and depends on where you live into, because 60 here and 60 there is two different
60s.
Two different 60s.
High
right?
humidity, low humidity.
It's a lot. Weather is such a huge deal here.
Yeah.
If it rains, it's gonna flood. It's a hurricane. It's a tornado. It's a earthquake. It is a lot. So paying attention to weather. Weather is such a huge deal. But not something that you can learn. That's something you can't get used to.
The good thing is, like on your phone, you have like the weather. Yeah. It's going to be right at your
Exactly. And what I do if I'm going anywhere, I always, like, if I'm going to another state, I check the weather for the week.
Yes.
So how long?
You know how to pack.
So I know how to pack. And like, okay, well, it's going to rain, so I need to have this. Or it's going to snow, so I need to have this. It's going to be a bit chilly, so I need to have this. So definitely looking at a forecast and then learning over time, that's going to help. Also, like, learning to do practical things, like your hair and stuff like that. That was
a big one.
That was a huge... I'm not a hair person. I am still not. Back home, to do your hair is so cheap.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody know to do hair, so you got like a free hairdo, and I can't with that. So like, I had to learn so much. I've watched so many hair videos.
Yeah.
Just trying to navigate and how to do your hair. So because to do your hair is so expensive. Like,
it's so expensive.
It's what I mean. Yes, if you have the money, that's good. But coming from, even if you have the money, you won't want to spend it.
Yeah.
Because you're coming from home, like
you're
literally paying like
$50 for some
$50. It's not even maybe now things like
$50 for some braids. But now you're talking about $200-$300. Like,
where? You mean $1,000 for braids?
It depends what kind of braids.
Yeah, but you get upward of $1,500 you could be paying for braids.
Once again, it depends.
It depends on where you're going, who you're going to.
Yeah.
But like, so you don't want to pay, that's rent. You don't want to pay rent on braids. So like, before you're coming, if you can learn, do your hair. Men, I know a lot of men in America, they decide to. They don't even cut their hair no more.
Or they went bald. They went
bald, or they locks. A lot of men do locks because of it's so expensive to cut their hair on a regular basis.
Yeah, like shout out to YouTube at university, because it taught me a lot. Because I too did not know how to do a lot with my hair, and I had to learn, because once again the price was outrageous. So I had to learn how to do a lot for myself. So yeah, continuing on things that daily life adjustments you have to make, like food and shopping, because once again in the Caribbean you have one particular diet, you eat certain things. So now to move to America, you might not be fond of the American diet. A lot of times that's a huge adjustment. Like, because America might eat a lot of bread. If you're not used to eating sandwiches and stuff like that, then it's hard. So now you got to make sure you either have to find supermarkets that carry the kind of like vegetables and the kind of fruits you like.
Now you know how to cook.
And you got to know how to cook it. Once again, shout out to YouTube. Shout out to food bloggers from the diaspora, like Metin G and Chef Dev and That Nurse Can Cook, and so many of them.
Yeah.
They teach you so much, and I'm grateful, that there are people who live in America or abroad, because once again, they can be in Canada or the UK as well, and they're telling you like, hey, for for example, in Guyana, we cook something called bora, which is basically Chinese long beans. And you might not have access to that, but you know what I use instead? I use green beans.
A lot of people say it's not the same. I had an argument on Facebook before.
It's not the same, but it's close enough.
To me, I think it's close enough.
It's close enough for me that I get that
some people disagree with you 100%.
I agree. I understand that. But for me personally, it's close enough for me to get that satisfaction. If I can't find pumpkin and I can find a butternut squash,
Yeah,
I'm gonna take my butternut squash.
Honestly, I don't see the big difference with that one.
Exactly. For me, once again, it does what it needs to do. For some people, they're very particular, and that's them. But
you gotta bring them pumpkin
you gotta,
from Guyana.
yeah, and you gotta be flexible if you're gonna want to adapt and embrace this new experience. You gotta be a little bit more open.
Yes.
You can't be so rigid where you're doing the same exact thing in America that you were doing in Guyana.
Correct.
Like, there's a reason why you move. You want new experiences. You want to grow. You want to, experience life in a newer and bigger way. So embrace all of that.
Correct.
And find substitution where you can, because it's gonna be helpful. I always remember when I first moved from Guyana to America, and I was away with on a church trip, and I remember the entire week eating like Americans. So I was eating probably pasta and bread. It was rough for me because I had no rice that entire week. I remember when I first got home and I had my first plate of rice. Oh my God. I felt my soul return to my body. So it's going to be hard. The adjustment is going to be hard. So try to, slowly incorporate new foods into your diet or find those substitutions. Because the minute you drop what you used to eat, what you used to take on, this new cuisine, it could be hard.
It could be hard. Yeah.
It could be really hard.
Yeah.
So definitely trying to find your ingredients is going to be a starting point for you. Like for us, we love going to Asian supermarkets because they kind of have a lot of food that are similar to the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you can find a Caribbean supermarket, definitely.
Perfect. But if you're not lucky to be close by.
Exactly. Asian supermarkets are clutch.
Mm-hmm.
Now that you're not living in the Caribbean where you probably used to be walking and you tending your little garden and whatever else you did that allowed you to be a lot more physical and stuff like that, you have to be mindful now in America. A lot of times the jobs you're in is very sedentary. You're just sitting all day, or you're standing up all day, or you're just not moving a lot. So you gotta be mindful of that. And one thing I wish I had learned or taken, better care of is
exercising. Yeah, I agree.
Learning how to exercise early on, because you might come with a nice little skinny body. Over time, if you don't exercise and you keep eating, you're gonna pack on that weight. Most people that left the Caribbean and moved to America,
they gain weight. Exactly.
That is so normal, and. One thing that gets me all the time is the size of America. And something I wish people had told me more of is how big America is. America's made of 50 states and territories. But these 50 states are not even mini countries, because some countries are not even as big as some of these states.
No.
Each state is its own country.
Yeah.
And it can be so overwhelming, Even living in Florida, to drive from one end, not even one end, from one side to the other side, it's 3 hours, give or take. It is so big, even when you're okay, I'm moving, you tell somebody, I'm moving to New York, or I'm moving to Florida, or wherever, and you're oh, I'm going to see them. No. That person lives 6 hours away from you. And
correct.
Then it's damn, how can we be in the same state?
6 hours by plane.
How can we be in the same state?
Yeah.
And then we're so far apart. Sometimes you're in the same city, and it's still so far apart. It's hard to connect with people because the size is just so big, and I think people don't understand that. So what else can be a challenge moving to America?
Well, dealing with your emotional well-being, definitely, I feel that's something for me I wish I had learned moving to America. I mean, I didn't think too much about it because I thought, it's something that I didn't even think about.
True.
That's the truth. Your emotional well-being and how you deal with stuff and your emotions, your mental health and stuff like that. There's something that I didn't even think about, because you just think, oh, you're moving to a place whereby you can earn more money, have a better quality of life, do various things, have more opportunities. That's what you're thinking about. But then you don't think about what it means to, leave your family, go into a different culture, as I mentioned, cultural or social climate. It's not something I thought about. For me, I would always see America, on TV, whatever, they would talk about racism and stuff like that. And for me, I always say, well, obviously racism is racism. I know it's here, But I feel, to me, I was a bit naive.
Yeah.
Because you would see stuff on TV and they're like, oh, this happened or that happened. And then you would see, oh, well, we're in a certain place or a certain point. Like, I always say that I feel that I was deceived because I thought that we are way further along.
That's what they like.
That's what it shows. Like, oh, you watch a lot of stuff. You see a lot of liberal stuff, a lot of progressive stuff, Hollywood. They're showing these things. So they're showing a more of a progressive America. And I'm not trying to like this, but honestly, especially where you live, if you live in a red state, racism is alive and well. And I feel that's something that I had to come to grips with, working, especially or living in a predominantly white neighborhood, night place, working in a predominantly white place, being the only black woman in certain spaces was strange for me, because I like, for me back home, no matter what, I'm allowed, I look alike, I'm allowed to speak up, I'm allowed to this. Here, you're not even like you're not even allowed to speak up.
You gotta play the game.
Exactly. How you dress, like, I thought that, the natural hair movement, that's one thing I was deceived by. The natural hair movement, everybody doing natural hair, and stuff like that. So I would always wear my natural hair, like, my big natural hair, have it, an afro, whatever. And that was very frowned upon. And this is like this year, I'm telling you guys, that was very frowned upon.
Yeah.
People wanted to touch my hair. People asking me if my hair, like, that happens so often. And everything you wear, everything you say, everything you look like, dealing with day-to-day racism was not something I was expecting.
Yeah.
I thought it would have been a one-off, but every day dealing with that was hard for me.
And that's not going to be, just a disclaimer, not
everyone's
not
experience.
Be like that. Yeah,
yes.
That won't be everyone's experience, but that's why she said that it depends on like where you live, where you work, because some companies definitely do not have a good workplace culture, and that's another thing too. You got to be careful of. And then some might be a bit more progressive in the sense that they make sure that diversity, equity, and inclusion is very important. So it all depends. You gotta be asking your questions and paying attention, and know that racism does exist. That's the main thing. Yeah. So you gotta be mindful. You gotta be watchful.
Yeah, there's something that you really gotta be. That don't, like, for me, once again, she mentioned depends on where you live or whatever, but never say, oh, whatever, because even when people visit and they experience it, they're caught off guard, because you're not used to that. You're not used to that. You're not used to being the only person. Even the way you talk. Yeah. Like, people would be like, "Oh, what did you say?" I'm like, I'm speaking English. Like, I'm speaking the same language as you. Like, being from an English-speaking place, a lot of Caribbean countries speak English. If you're lucky to have that, and still, it's an issue.
Yes, that is so true.
So having that, focusing on your mental health is very important. Because you realize that you're so othered every time, and that's something that you really gotta remember
being othered,
to pay attention to. I would never advise to move to a predominantly white neighborhood. I would never advise it. Yeah, but that's just my opinion.
So building a support network, it's so important to find and connect with new communities. If you can find people who from your same community, great, or similar communities. Like, we're Caribbean, even though we might be from different countries. But connecting with other Caribbean people, I feel like is so helpful, because even though we might have, differences, we're still so similar that it's still like a part of, like, finding a tribe. Yeah. And one thing that, might be a tough one to talk about, but, but prepare yourself, for example, moving away and coming to live with, like, family. And, that experience being chaotic, or it hasn't been like the best experience. Things like that happen quite a bit.
That's true.
Quite a bit. Unfortunately, that's something no one can prepare you for, and you never know until you're in it, because people do mean well and have the best intention, but then reality and expectation kind of get all out of whack, and then here you are having issues with your own family. It's never an easy thing, but
that's a good one.
This is why it's good to, like, find community for support. A big one people don't talk about is feeling homesick. Like, if you live all your life in one place, you get homesick. You miss your home, especially if you move here when you're a lot older, you miss your home, you miss the familiar places, familiar faces, you miss your family and your friends, you miss your food, you miss the smell of the air.
Yeah, because natural.
Yeah, you miss so much and you feel homesick. So it's important when those feelings arise, make sure you call home. The good thing is we have technology now, so you can always call back home, FaceTime. And obviously, if you got money, visit, go back home and spend some time, spend some time with your loved one, enjoy the fruits, enjoy the food. It's always a good time to go back home and to vibe out.
Yeah.
So,
but I think to me, a lot of people deal with homesick as in like, you need to acknowledge it. And I think acknowledge it helps with growth, because that's why I see a lot of people living in this, like, a lot of people live in New York, because New York is a lot like the Caribbean.
Yeah, facts. And plus it's easier. I feel like in one of those places, it's easier to get on your feet quickly. Because a lot of places, the farther out you go,
I don't agree with that.
No, the farther out you go, one, you got to learn how to drive. If you're living in places, and a lot of people don't know how to drive, and for some people that's scary.
But I feel like that's it stops there.
No, two.
You get a lot of public transportation in other places.
Two, not as reliable.
Not as reliable as New York.
Two,
Facts.
New York is easier. I feel like it's easier to rent a space. You can rent somebody's basement. You can rent so many different places. The farther out you go, things are different. You need more money to survive, essentially.
But New York is very expensive. Even though the rent is more expensive than other places.
That's if you're living, it depends on how you're living.
So I gotta live with 8 people.
Which a lot of people do. What I'm saying is, for some people, that is much easier. But once again, I agree in the long term, it would be better off to leave. But for some people, a lot of people stay. Understand why people stay.
But I think, to me, I won't say it's easier. I think it's easier because that's what people know.
And that's a big thing.
Yeah, that's what people know. But that's what I'm saying. Like,
away, like from farther out, it's different because it challenges them.
And that's what I'm saying. Like with the homesick, I think because people are so homesick, you stay in that same space, in that same bubble. But is that what's best for you in the long term? That's what I'm saying. That was what I'm saying.
Yeah, but once again, that depends on the person. Because for some people, they'll be like, "That's perfectly fine."
Yeah, I guess. But in terms of growth,
and I feel like people do go to New York because it's just easier to get a foot in, because once again you have a built-in community.
It's true, you
already
do.
there.
You do, but I feel like the cost of living anyway. It's a bit expensive. It's one of the most expensive places to live.
It is, but most people are not living that expensively. So lastly, let's talk about educational and financial planning, because that is a big one.
Yeah.
The school system here is so different. Thankfully, when I moved, I was already out of high school because I could not fathom that. But it's so different. You can have a passive role if you're a parent in the school.
Absolutely
you need to be
not.
paying attention with what's going on in the schools, because once again, your kids could also face racism. Sorry to say, but that's very possible. Mm-hmm. School shooting, you need to be mindful and watchful of that. That is a big one, huge issue. And, just be mindful and ensure that they have all their grades in and stuff like that, because, that can impact them going to college later on.
Yeah,
so you
extracurricular activities.
Yes, make sure they have extracurricular activities, because that allows them to be more rounded, and they will help them with their college later on. And even with college, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Because you're going to need money for college. And if you don't have the money, then you're going to have to take out financial loan, which is okay, I guess, if you have to. But once again, be mindful of how much you're taking out. Look into predatory loans that may prey upon you and your child. And if it's like, it's a first generation college student, definitely look to see if you can get like scholarships, or even ask people. Because for me, when I was going to college, I was like one of the first people to go to college in my immediate family, and it was very confusing because I had to navigate a lot of that on my own. And if I had to do it differently, I would have, because once again, people, if you don't know, you don't know. And seek out resources, go to the financial aid offices, ask questions, have them explain to you what's happening. Go with your kids. Don't have them go by themselves, because they might know a little bit more because they're probably online doing their research or whatever. But you still go with them, and ensure that they're making good choices. Because a lot of times these loan lenders prey on young kids, have them sign in, for loans
Correct.
at a young age, knowing that they can't afford it.
Yeah, and especially with education, like do your own research. I think that's very important because a lot of times, a lot of people are like, oh, you have a education back home, it's not valid here. Not necessarily. Like do your own research. Like if you studied at a university that's reputable, I studied at my university, and then my degree was perfectly accepted here and stuff like that. So like you need to like research those things, because a lot of times people like, oh, you got a degree in this Timbuktu, it don't matter over here. That is not true. That's not true.
A medical degree,
unless it's medical, or even like and sometimes like I know with teachers and stuff like that, you can go and have your certificate accredited, verified, and it works just right here. So don't just listen to hearsay. I feel hearsay is a bad place to be. Do your own research. Find out yourself. Call and say, hey, I am A, I am B, I am C. What can I do to get here? I feel like that's very important, because a lot of times we don't think things are valid, and that's not the case.
That's not true.
That's not true at all. So do your own research. I feel like it's very important.
Back then is not true now.
No, and it depends on where you went and all these different things.
A lot of universities in Guyana, not in Guyana, in the Caribbean,
they're accredited.
They're properly accredited. So do your research.
Yeah, it is accredited. It usually is. You want to go to an accredited. So even though let's say you haven't moved this yet, make sure where you're going is accredited. Medical is a whole different thing.
That's a big one, because medical you might not be able to slide by. Maybe you could
based on
get some
knowledge,
credits, but you probably still need to do some schooling.
Correct.
Over here.
I wouldn't advise medical.
But still do your research on that as well.
Yeah. So like cost of living, I feel that's something that you want to focus on as well. Like how much it would take to live, like how much you got to pay for rent, how much you got to pay for your light bill, electricity, in heat in some places, gas in some places. Like those are additional bills,
insurance, phone bill.
Yeah, you're not like
health insurance, all the things,
all the additional things,
bills and more bills.
all the additional things you want to pay attention to, so you know how to budget effectively. Right? Also financial planning. I feel like that's a huge one, right? Because sometimes the way that you learn to save back home is not the same way like here. I feel like there's a lot more things that you could invest in. I think investing is a big deal, because a lot of times, especially like where I'm from, a lot of people are not keen on investing because we don't have opportunities to invest.
Yeah, it's just you don't know.
Exactly. So now you move over here, you're like, oh, I'm not putting my money in the stock market or whatever. We're not getting into all of that.
Like
but
your 401k at work, like stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's a good place to invest. And I feel like that's something that people need to, people like, oh, I want all my money now. Look for how much is a retirement. Like retirement is a big deal. But how much would you need to retire?
Most people are going to be like, I'm going back to the Caribbean to retire.
Yeah, but going back to the Caribbean,
how much is that going to cost you?
Exactly. But then you got to look at various things, like what it means to go back to the Caribbean and retire. Like, yes, okay, but cost of living might be better. What about healthcare? What about various things you got to consider. Exactly. Various things you need to consider. But if you set up a good plan here, you know what to do. Or even if you retire back in the Caribbean, you could still have your money here making money for you. So you get a monthly money coming in. Like, pay attention to those things. Like, there's so many ways to make money, right? So many different ways. And just putting everything, saving everything in the back home may not be the only way. And I feel like that's something that, especially in the Caribbean community, like we just know, save. How much, your bank account even giving you? Like, like how much is it yielding? Like, those are things, look for high yields. I mean, we're not getting too financial, but look for a high yield saving account that's giving you at least a good percent. So get a bank account that makes sense for you, even if you plan on saving. Like, get a bank account that makes sense for you. Another one is credit. Credit is super important, y'all. Credit is like a big deal. I don't know. I don't know what you've told. It's in America. Well, I mean, anywhere if you get credit, you get the thing. But in America,
is much more
exactly.
serious.
So having a credit score, a good credit score, is very important. What's a good credit score? Research that, because it depends on what you're buying. It depends on a lot of things. Getting a good credit score. Let me tell you something. You could get the money to buy a house, you can get money for a down payment to buy a house. If you don't have a good credit score, they're not going to sell you that house. That's how much important credit scores are. You understand? So you need to ensure you're building your credit.
If you have no credit score, it's different. But if you have a bad credit score, it affects you much more.
So no credit score is bad too, because a lot of times it's based on your credit history.
Yeah, but not necessarily for house. To buy a house is different. If you
no. It depends on this, like the situation.
There's workarounds for that, because some people don't have no credit history, which is not as, you still need, it is still good to have a credit history. Not
yes,
that.
You need to have credit history.
If you have bad credit, I need to emphasize on that. It's better for you to have no credit history than bad
credit history. Absolutely. No, absolutely, because that means that you can be trusted. So my advice coming over here, try and build your credit like immediately.
And learn. Don't just go all willy-nilly jumping into it.
Yes. Learn, exactly. Pay your bills. If you pay your bills, it's like a huge thing.
And it's more, that's a big part of it, but there's still more
a lot more to it.
So it's something like, don't think you're going to figure it out as soon as you come.
No.
You have to learn it. Like, literally sit down and take time to understand
Correct.
it.
Do your research.
Do your research.
But credit is important. Like, building your credit is like one of the most important things you could ever do living in America.
Important.
Yeah.
Because when you have good credit, things are a lot cheaper for you.
Easier.
Bad credit means things are much more expensive. For that apartment you want to pay a down payment on, now you got to pay 3 times or something. So when you have good credit, people are going to be like, okay, this person pays their bill on time. I can trust them with this loan. I can trust them with this because I know they will pay their bill. So credit basically indicates whether or not you're good at paying your debt. If you're not good at paying your debt, people are going to make it much more harder for you to get stuff because they can't trust you with their money or with whatever it is you're trying to get.
But also, even let's say you could afford things cash, buying stuff a credit and paying it on time goes a long way as well, because you need to have that credit history building. You need to show them. So even though you might could afford, like, I'm gonna do everything cash. No. Definitely still try to get into the credit by paying your bills. Even like if you took out a credit card, you know you're paying your, let's say, your car note. If you can pay that, or your light bill or something, you could use that to pay every month and then just pay it back. That helps build a history, so they know that you could lend to it instead of doing nothing.
But before you go into that, please do the research, because it's something you need to learn and understand on your own. Like, we're just telling you right now,
like basic
go
things.
in and look into it.
Basic things.
If you have no control over your spending, I'd rather you keep spending in cash. Because instead of racking up, credit card bills. So be responsible and do your research, because in the long run, having a good credit is very important, and it's going to take you a long way. Because nothing wrong. Nobody's saying you have to be in debt. That's not what we're saying at all.
No,
but you got to play the game, and the game is you have to have good credit.
You have to get good credit, and that's how you gotta get credit to get good credit, guys. For listening to us and talk about our experience with moving to America. I'm sure that you guys have your own experiences, and you probably have more questions. If you want, you can definitely send us your questions, send us your comments. Let us know what you agreed with, what you disagree with, your personal experience, right? The reason why we want to do this is because we want people to know that they're not out there, and they're not alone. Like, we had our own issues. We wish they had someone to come and tell us, like, A, B, C, like, this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do, or whatever. So if you know you're out there and you're wondering, definitely send us a message. But most importantly, go and do your research. Ask as much as you can ask about every single thing. Research every single thing. There's nothing that you shouldn't research, because even the smallest thing, it might be something that you need to know, right? So definitely let us know your feedback on what you think about this topic, and if you have any questions or concerns, definitely let us know. Okay, so we want to move into our next segments called Ting Nice Bad. That's basically where we talk about things that we love on this show. And recently I discovered this genre of music called Creole rock. And so I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but I recently heard of it, and it's so good. So basically, this band, I think they're called Creole rock
Yeah, I think
as
they're
well.
called Creole rap.
Yeah, but their music is Creole rock too. I think that's a genre as well.
Okay.
And but basically they have a song called Economy, and this song is like an old Guyana folk song, and it's so good, guys. So go online and check out. Yeah, it's so good. Like it gives you that feeling of like old folk song, but it mixed with a bit of modern punk rock. It's so good. So shout out to the Creole rock band or group, and kudos on doing your thing. I love to see when people doing a thing, mixing all with new, creating something new. So it was a really, really good song. So you definitely check them out online. It's called Economy by Creole Rock.
Captain, put me ashore. I don't want to go anymore. Eternally gonna frighten me. Eternally gonna drown in me. Eternally don't want me belly. Eternally is too much for me. Eternally.
Yeah, our another segment that we have is our Q&A, and sometimes, we have viewers that ask us a question, but today we're going to ask you guys a question, so let us know what you think, and obviously we're going to discuss the question. So today's Q&A question is, should a man pay a woman's bill if they don't live together? So let's say they're dating, and he's with this woman now. They're exclusive, I'm assuming, because they're together now. They don't live together. Should that man pay that woman's bill? How many bills are we talking about?
I don't know. Maybe some of the bills. All the bills.
Interesting.
I don't know. Like, how much bills do you think is bills enough?
I feel like that's unnecessary. However, if he's like, that's what he's Shimano, he want, take on a thing or two off of his own will, not her asking him. I feel like that's okay if you want to pay the light bill, because once again, he's Shimano, and some men are providers, and like they have that providing mentality, and he wants to do that.
Okay.
I feel like that's okay, but for her to be like requiring him to pay her bills when they don't live together, I'm like, how was your bills being paid before him?
Well, I hear like some women would say it's maintenance. Like a maintenance fee, because
what?
Because she gotta, like, if you coming over, she gotta smell fresh, so she got bathe.
Were you not bathing, showering before the man? I'm confused. Was she not buying perfume before him? Once again, I feel like if a man is doing it out of his own, I feel like
so if it's not bills, what is giving you like a raise every month, an allowance? But you're using this for your bills.
Right. Once again, if the man wants to do it, yes. But I feel like if a woman is like telling him, you have to do it, I'm confused because they don't live together. I can understand if they're, living together. That's his wife, that's her husband. That's different. But for me, you guys are together, but you have your own place. I have my own place. I find that very unnecessary. But if he wants to do it, yes.
So what about if you live on your own? He lives with his family, right? Let's say his mom or whatever. He's still living home with his family for whatever reason. But he's over by you a lot.
Then he got to pay some bills on his casa. If he's over by me a lot, he's not.
Like he's sleeping over every other night.
Nah, you at that point you partially live in here. This is your second home. So in that case, I can see, you're being like, hey, you gotta help out, especially come over here, eating the food out, like, yeah.
Okay, so bills include groceries?
You gotta eat. It's not a bill.
I don't know. Like for me, I think he's not required. I think you have your own bills. He has his own bills. I think unless you're living together, you're not required to pay anyone's bills. But what about phone bill?
I don't think that's required, like you said. But the situation you outlined with him, spending most of his times over there, I think that
you gotta put something.
Yeah, because you're over here a lot.
Okay. If you want to give something or whatever, that's fine. But I don't think when it comes to bills, you need to stick to your own bills or whatever.
Yeah, if you're just together, not living together, I don't think he's required to pay your bills. But if he offers to, then heck yeah.
Well, I know women, definitely women, men. Let us know what you think, because I think that
should the man pay?
I know, because I think a lot of
together. But it depends on what they don't live together. Because some people, let's say they're married but they don't live together. Let's say the husband or the wife lives in America but they live back in the Caribbean.
Okay.
If you're married, then that's a different situation.
Absolutely, marriage is different.
So in that case, for sure.
No, in that case, negotiable. Because he still got his own house.
Yeah, but what if his wife is a stay-at-home mom?
Oh, well, what do you mean? That means he's taking care of her. That's different.
Okay.
That is different. But if, for example, like you live over here and he lives back home in wherever in the Caribbean, you're making way more than him. You can't pay. You probably paying he bills.
Ooh, chale.
But let us know in the comments, guys, what do you think? Should a man pay a woman's bills if they don't live together? Let us know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let us know. So yeah, this has brought us to the end of our episode. Thank you as always for tuning in, for subscribing to our YouTube channels, as well as following us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Lyman and Healing. Please comment your thoughts on today's episode. Let us know your moving to America story. Let us know some of the things you've accomplished and overcome, because we know it could not have been easy, but know that you're not alone. We're part of this community together.
Yeah.
If you want us to talk about a topic, leave a comment or send us a DM. We always would love to hear your suggestions as well, and we'll respond to you. But thank you again for tuning in. Check out all of our episodes. If you have not yet, go back to the YouTube and browse through all of our videos. Look at the ones you've not seen as yet and give it a watch. But
give it a like.
Always, until we see each other, in the meantime, in between time, remember to
bust a lime. See you next time.